Group C has just ended, and I figure I'd do a little bit of recap of all the games within Group C and give a little breakdown of what I thought about the games, particularly. But so far, we have Cloud9 in first place, and then Detonation Focus Me in second place. Now, many were not really surprised by Cloud9, of course, because they were expected to get first place, but they were surprised about Detonation Focus Me because this Japanese team just came out swinging. So they representing, I gotta say, Kampai. Now, for Detonation Focus Me, what I found very impressive about this team was Evi. As I said before in my other video about the play-in stage and all the teams, I thought that Detonation Focus Me, their win condition was Evi. Just play through him, have him either get snowballed or have him lead the team because he's the biggest veteran on the team. So it's clear that they really did play through him. Played through his split push. His ergot as well too is just on fire, right? And kind of weird that people didn't really ban it all that much. But so you have that. You have Saros in the mid lane. Now a lot of people might be confused as to why Heimerdinger and Ziggs were banned against DeadFM. Well, it's because this guy plays Heimer and Ziggs at a pretty high level, so they didn't want that to get through, and you could see in one of the games in which he got Ziggs, but we'll get to that later. Anyways, I want to jump into the first game. I'll pull some images on the slideshow over here so that we can go through the draft phase at least, and you can see all the champions and stuff, so you have all the imagery so it doesn't sound that confusing. So we'll go with the first game, which is Cloud9 versus Kaboom. Now, what I thought about this draft and what was weird, or well, what was good first, I guess we'll go with that, is that Cloud9 got Kai'Sa on the first pick. It's very crucial. Kai'Sa's OP. We all know that. But it's strange that Kaboom picked Lucian early instead of picking Braum, right? If you're going to go Lucian in the later portions of the draft and you see that they've already picked Kai'Sa, then why do you need to pick Lucian in the first phase? It's like, okay, maybe you think he's going to be banned in the second phase for some reason. I don't know who would be banning Lucian, but like, hey, okay, maybe there's some weird scrim knowledge or something, but from the outset it looks like you should not pick Lucian in the first rotations or in the first half of the draft phase, and then instead pick Braum, right? Because Braum obviously pairs very well with Lucian, and he is one of the best meta supports currently right now, alongside of Tahm Kench. So it's just very strange that they pick Lucian. And then it's also strange that Olaf wasn't picked for the third pick for Cloud9. They could have easily gotten Olaf instead of Qingjiao. So that tells me that what they wanted to do was counter pick it because they knew that Kaboom was going to pick it anyways. So this seems like an experimental game to me. And then it's also it's a good job that Cloud9 counterpicked with Leona into Pyke. That's really good matchup. And it's just kind of funny that Kaboom just went all in on this draft phase of like, okay, well, we want Pyke and we want Lucian for some reason, but they completely mess up the draft phase. I don't know what their coach is doing, to be honest. Just seems really bad. Anyways, getting into the game, Kaboom had an early advantage because they have early push, and then they also have good river vision. It's just all along the entire river from top to bottom, and this is probably done because everyone knows Blabber's tendency to be very aggressive and also counter jungle. So that's a good job. But Riev, the support for Kaboom, decides to end bot lane, losing their advantage entirely, and Kaboom's top laner ends up just losing top lane by himself after he gets ganked, and he has to blow his flash in order to save himself, right? And so he's down a ton of CS, and Kaboom's jungler. The big problem of this game is Kaboom's jungler should have pressured bot side, because that's your pushing advantage lane. Not only that, but your Urgot, or your Urgot is getting wrecked in the top lane. So you don't want to go to the losing lane anyways. Just go snowball your bot lane priority, especially because if a Leona gets behind, then she really can't engage that well. She can only do it with her ult and then try and lock someone up, but after that she's dead once she gets in. That's the problem with Leona, and that's why not a lot of people play her in competitive, is because you have every way in but no way out. So I think it was completely incorrect how Kaboom's jungler played. He should have played towards bot side. That's primarily why they lost. And, with a inting support and a bad draft phase. And then no one got QSS, no one got magic resist, anything. So it was just really strange. As for the second game now, let's take a gander at that. Okay, so Detonation Focus Me versus Kaboom. Now, for this draft phase, I thought it was okay by both sides. I like the idea of DFM's pick for Karma. I kind of think it should have been a Lulu, but if he's better on Karma, then it works. I really think the draft phase from them is quite intelligent. You get the Varus first, which is pretty crucial, and I'll go into this later of why, but I think Varus is a really good pick in this current meta. And he has been pick banned quite a bit, especially in the NALCS, so it's pretty critical that they pick this up early. Now, then Kaboom gets Talia. It doesn't really work super well. And then they get the Syndra as well too. Now, Detonation Focus Me get Tom Kench, which is a super high priority right now, so they kind of went out on that. And it's weird once again that Kaboom take Thresh first, maybe because they think they can snowball the bot lane, but then you have a Tristana anyways, so I'm not sure why you would pick Thresh in this instance. It doesn't make much sense to me. So anyways, to get into the game, Kaboom, they get an early advantage through jungle, as like Ranger, he's able to control the scuttle crabs, and that's awesome, right? So he denies steal quite a bit, and then Tinkato gets or Chinkato, however his name's pronounced, I don't fucking know, gets a early HP lead in lane, and so this is really good. Their jungle and their mid are ahead. And then at 13 minutes, Kaboom, they try and force a fight top by sending 3 to kill Evie, but DFM had so many globals and TPs to get to the top lane that they end up getting a 3-for-0. So this is an instance in which basically the game just turns heavily in favor of DFM, and they're able to get a 3-0. They're able to kind of try and snowball this, and Kaboom could have gotten a tower after a big 5-for-1 team fight at 17 minutes, which DFM messed up, but they chase a extra kill going towards the bot side instead of getting something else on the map. So they just aren't really objective focused in this entire game. And then around 26 minutes, DFM steals Baron with a Varus Q. And then clean up after that, getting like mid tier 2 and then mid inhibitor. And so really this entire game was snowballed through the top fight where they got a 3-for-0, and then they fuck up in the mid game, but then Kaboom messes up even harder and allows the Baron to be stolen. So this game was just a whole hodgepodge of really badness. And then Kaboom, on top of that, just had terrible side lane wave management. They kept on trying to ARAM and stuff, and it just wasn't really working out that well. So this game wasn't really that great. I don't want to spend much time on it. It was just bad. So DFM versus Cloud9. Now the draft, obviously you can see that DFM got the Ziggs pick, which worked quite well. It kept mid lane occupied, so Jensen really couldn't do anything because the wave was constantly just getting eaten up by the Ziggs, because that's what he does. He just keeps you in your mid lane, and then he tries to do globals on you, on the rest of the team. Now DFM get Urgot and they get Varus. So this is super good for them, and why I wanted to touch why I talked about Varus beforehand and why he's so good is because I think if you're a wildcard region going into a major region, you're obviously going to have a mechanical disadvantage. Your players just aren't as good. Well, with a champion like Varus, suddenly you have the wave push and you have the aggression in lane, so you're able to kind of compensate when it comes to lane phase, and then hopefully you can snowball from there to get to mid game, to get to late game. I think this is the best strategy for these wildcard teams. So Varus, I think, should be a very high priority for any wildcard team trying to face against a major region. I just think it's a very good pick. It has good lane priority, and then your jungler can kind of have a little bit more aggression and stuff and start to get things snowballing. And then Varus is also pretty good late game as well too, so it's kind of a win-win. And yeah, sure, you hedge your bets and you say, okay, well, the enemy gets Kai'Sa, but maybe you just ban the Kai'Sa and instead you get Varus. So I like the draft a lot from DFM. Cloud9's draft I like as well too. I like the response of Licorice's Lissandra and how he took Aftershock, because as I think it was Jat, he did a little video talking about the intricacies of a top Lissandra or Aftershock Lissandra, and how basically you have like 7.5 to 8 seconds of really tankiness to where you can survive pretty much anything and get into the back line or whatever. So I like this pick. I think it's very smart. And then as far as the game, I like how the game played out. So Detonation Focus Me had good aggression. They had good counter jungling and just shutting down Blabber to an extent, but then eventually Blabber was able to get a lead for Licorice top lane with the Lissandra pick, right? So then around like 13-20, Cloud9 decided to go for Rift Herald, and then DeadFM react faster, and Vivid, and then the Tom Kench, and then a TP from Varus. So DFM's globals just let them get there faster for a 3-for-1, and then Rift Herald as well too. So Cloud9 definitely slipped up here, and I think if they were to replay this game, maybe they wouldn't go for the same play because of all the fucking globals, and they just forgot about it for some reason. I don't know. But that was the major thing. And then Ziggs and Varus and team fights were just destroying them with AoE. So, and if you look at the team composition itself, you have an Aurelia, and then you have a Lissandra who's also close range, and then a Kai'Sa that's close range, and then you have Kindred who's also decently close range if you're able to keep her down on marks, which she was down on marks. So you have all this close team fighting. So Ziggs is a really good pick for this AoE, and then you have just Varus doing his Q across the entire enemy line. So combine that and you have suddenly this burst potential. So it's really good. I really like it. But then Licorice, he just ends up getting a flank to destroy their carries because DeadFM got super greedy around like 42-minute mark. So overall, I think DeadFM played really well in day one. Was pretty surprised, but like I said before in my other video, I thought that they had kind of a chance to surprise Cloud9. I'm glad that they did, and I'm glad that they're doing quite well, honestly. Now for day 3, let's go to day 3. So you have Kaboom versus DeadNation Focus Me. So with this draft, DeadFM took Vayne in the first part of the draft phase, and then meanwhile it allowed Kaboom to flex Vel'Koz bot, right? And maybe they just didn't have this knowledge, but the AD carry for Kaboom plays Vel'Koz. So it kind of sucks for them, because now you have this super good wave clear bot, and you have this shit wave clear in Vayne. So they already win and draft hard. This game is basically all dependent upon draft itself. And then so Kaboom and then DeadNation Focus Me end up focusing jungle topside, and they both get kills. And then DFM tries to gank top again, trying to tower dive with their jungle, but it fails super hardcore. And so Kaboom, during this whole time, they have bot lane pressure, and so they basically just win on this. But Kaboom decide to do like a 50-50 Baron, even though they were super far ahead and the enemy jungler was behind pit. So it's super bad. They shouldn't have done this at all. They end up getting their Baron stolen by Steel, Apt's name, but they're still able to close out. So it was just a bad game overall for DeadNation Focus Me. They were super hamstrung by their team composition, so I just think this was kind of a botch from the coach themselves and the analysts, because they didn't do their homework and they didn't realize that Vel'Koz was a flex pick. So next game, Kaboom versus Cloud9. So Cloud9 won this one, of course, and for the draft phase, nothing super special from both teams. I mean, Cloud9 seemed to not prioritize Urgot because they have the counter pick for Lissandra, so they have a lot of faith in that counter pick, so they're willing to let that go in first rotation oftentimes, and instead they get Kai'Sa in order to recuperate that. Right, this is their entire draft phase plan. It's pretty smart, in fact. So other than that, I don't really have any qualms with the entire draft phase. I think it was pretty well done by both teams. So as far as the game, Kaboom, they try and early gank top at level 6, but Sejuani mechanically misplays because she goes over the wall, right, from the blast cone, but the blast cone's not there, so she has to use her Q to dash over, and so she mechanically misplays though by ulting too close, because the Lissandra uses her W, I believe it is, to transport herself, and ends up Wing out at the end portion of it. So you have one of two choices: either you try and aim it towards where Licorice is in the beginning, or you do it towards the end, because either way you're gonna get him. I would do it towards the end personally, but it's because then he'll have to cut his travel short, and then you can still get in there with your W and flail him and then proc your passive, and you probably still kill him, or at least you blow his flash. So I just think it was a very big mechanical misplay from him. And then C9, they do a gank bot lane later with Kaboom having no TP, so they're able to get a 2-for-0 and then Ocean Drake. Super good. So this entire time, I just think Kaboom had a lot of mechanical misplays this game. I don't think really anyone was playing that well, and C9 were a bit slow to close this out, admittedly, but they're still able to win the game, so props to them. It was a decent game, but yeah, I just think there was a ton of mechanical misplays from Kaboom. So and it's also strange too, might I add, that Varus wasn't picked, which, as I said before, Varus is a really good pick for those that aren't very mechanically great and they're outclassed by the enemy team, because then you get an early push and you have an early advantage at least to try and get something on the board before things go haywire once you go against this Kaisa. So I don't really necessarily agree with the Tristana pick. I think it's not very great, to be honest. So I guess that's my one qualm. So next game, Cloud9 versus DeadNation Focus Me. Cloud9 won this one, and it's crazy to see Sneaky on Draven. Just gonna say, he's not known for this super aggressive laner, even though he has played Draven in the LCS before. But it's weird to see him on such an aggressive pick. So DeadFM, they get top tier 1 in the game, and then they get 1 kill on Licorice because they all just go up there, and then they get Rift Herald as well at 12 minutes. Meanwhile, Cloud9, they get 2 bot turrets, blue buff, and Cloud Drake. So DeadFM, they just look super hesitant in how they wanted to go for this one. So I think Cloud9 got the better bargain of it, to be honest. And then DeadFM, they end up expending Rift Herald mid, and it gets killed immediately before even hitting the mid tier 1. So their whole entire top exchange was just really bad. Now Jensen, he got caught a couple times in the side lane without vision. He wasn't respecting the Nocturne or any of the globals from DeadFM anyways. And then they also stole Baron because of an early smite from Blabber. So it's okay, he's nervous maybe, whatever. But Cloud9, they have to play a little bit more slowly, and they start pushing lanes, and then they get superior jungle vision set up in the enemy jungle, and then that's how they win the game. They win a good team fight, and then it's over. Overall, not impressed by Jensen's lack of respect of vision, and other than that, I think Cloud9 actually played this game pretty well overall. Now you have the tiebreaker match. So this is DeadFM versus Kaboom. Now, as we know, DeadFM wins this. Now, Ranger, the jungler from Kaboom, he ended up having good scuttle control in the early game, and this is pretty important against a Kindred, because you just want to keep her off those marks and everything. You want to stop her from snowballing her gold and stuff. So I like the idea of a Nidalee for the last pick. I think it's a decent idea, but later on in the game they just get pretty steamrolled because they just don't have the greatest engage either. What you have in Alistar, you have a stun from Syndra, that's really about it, and hopefully your front line survives long enough. But DeadFM, they get the Urgot again. As you can see, this is a problem, but it's also notable that they didn't pick Varus. They ended up picking Ezreal, which means that if I'm looking at this as a coach, then I would say, okay, DeadFM, they don't really care about Varus. Like it's very clear to me that they don't really care about it. They'd rather pick Ezreal because they picked it against Cloud9 as well too. So as you can see, they just don't really care about Varus itself. So that's a really big weakness within this team, I think. But they still win the game. You know, they get a 3-for-0 and a mid-tier 1 in like the middle of the game, and then DeadFM, they sneak Baron at like 20 minutes exactly, because Kaboom's bot lane is at the bot tier 1, because they had did a lane swap previously and it went quite well for DeadFM. They ended up getting the mid tier 1, and then lanes, they thought lanes were going to reset, but DeadFM was just like, no, fuck it, we're getting Baron, and then bam, they close out super fast. So really impressed overall. This Japanese team is pretty good. And I mean, I don't have super high hopes for them to actually make it out entirely, but hey, they at least got to the knockout stage plans. So that's something. That's better than what they've ever done before, actually. So props to Evie himself. He's playing like a beast on this Urgot. I think you need to take him off that pick. But I'm excited to see how the playing stage shapes up as we now complete the other groups. So we'll look at those two, but I thought this was the more interesting of the plans. You know, also group D also completed as well too. Gambit, they played just better than KLG. That's about it, but they weren't great. So I don't have hope for them. G-Rex looks super good. They look super dominant in almost every game that they play. So I think they're going to give a run for their money for Cloud9. Probably not EDG. EDG just stomping. So and I think they'll beat G2 if they make it through. Supermassive. That'll be a good match. But that's all I have. That's my review for the plans Group C, and I'm looking forward to all the other groups finishing, and I'll give my my thoughts on the other groups of what's actually interesting. I might do both of the other groups. I might not. I don't know. Oh wait, no, it won't, because EDG, we already know they're just going to win, so there's no point in talking about them, but I will talk about Supermassive and G2, so that'll be fun, and I'll see you guys at the next video. Peace.